You are a precious beast. Going about the work that you have, chomping on little bugs in the grass. Look at you go. Just one after the other. Chomping. You are a happy little guy. And it makes me happy. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad I'm here. What a gift it is to be alive. If you weren't scared of me, I'd try to be your friend. But you probably are. Look at you go.
TBTL. Excuse me, who even are you?
Type A, I'm not. Comfortable, caring, and serious about a relationship, I am.
We do not know each other. This is all happening so fast. Can I get pregnant from this?
The backstory for that one, I thought was like, you crazy frat brother.
I keep hearing you say when you do the snort laugh that you got to stop doing the snort laugh, and I don't want you to stop doing the snort laugh. I love the snort laugh. It's a laugh. I love all the laughs.
Mom, it's not real. It's a jib jab.
Let the filibustering begin.
Well, all right. Hello, good morning, and welcome everyone to a Tuesday edition of TBTL, the show that just might be too beautiful to live.
You've been living in the monkey house.
My name is Luke Burbank. I am your host.
Please clap.
Coming to you from the Madrona Hills studio, perched high above the mighty Columbia, where we have another gorgeous, gorgeous day.
Oh, Ma, Pa, it's just beautiful.
It's going to be a perfect day for me to get out and wail away on the lawn again. I have a delivery coming tomorrow, and I have to have everything just right, which we may get into a more involved explanation of here on episode 4765 in a collector series.
Let the fun begin.
We talked yesterday about the impending U.S. men's national team World Cup game, and the fact that the President of the United States appeared to force FIFA to put one of our players back on the squad, and that did happen, and they did play Belgium. And
it was literally a major disaster.
We'll unpack that a little bit. Also, I have recently come into some information involving a long-running TBTL audio drop and what the actual kind of context or meaning is.
So explain that.
So we will unpack that as well. And we will say hello to this young man. He has no explaining to do, okay?
I bought a balloon, and it doesn't mean I think I'm better than everybody else.
He's the longest-running Cobra of the show, maybe best known for his depictions of the tall ships. He's Andrew Walsh, and he's joining me right now. Good morning, my friend.
Good morning, Luke. We did it, man. We cracked the code. We learned how to bring in new listeners to TBTL. And that is one Facebook post at a time on the Valley City Community Center Facebook page, apparently. Are there indications that our recent star turn on the Valley City Community Group's Facebook page has actually delivered us some new listeners? Absolutely. Shout out to new listener Sandra Capretta, who heard about us on Facebook. And left us a C, I believe. Sandy C. Left us a nice message on our blog. I don't know if you know this, but TBTL, I mean, is it a blog? Do we have a blog? We have a website, and you can leave comments. We have a web blog. It's like an online diary, sort of, and we kind of update it every day with a new show. And you can leave comments underneath the shows that we post on our website. And got a very nice note from another fellow Buckeye graduate who also put her kids through the Buckeye Elementary School system. Excited to hear that TBTL is coming home to Valley City, Ohio. And it really warmed the cockles today. I am so glad that I didn't see that before the show, because I would have been nervous. Anytime I'm mostly joking, but kind of not. I think you and I both have the same sort of thought on this, Andrew, which is occasionally when TBTL gets mentioned somewhere, particularly if it's like in an online space where we think, ooh, that might send some people our way. Maybe a John Hodgman or somebody like that who's kind of in our world, but also more famous than us. A Sandra Capretta. Like a Sandy C. Then we kind of like the next day we're like, well, we might have new listeners today, so let's not play intro tape. That's offensive. Let's not our usual offensive intro tape. Yeah. That's why I went with the gentlest tape of a guy talking to an opossum today. Yeah, like whenever we think, even if it's 20 new people, probably when it was agreed that the
Parkside Little League was going to allow us to sponsor a team, later known as the TBTL Junior Sluggers. Whatever the day was that it seemed there might be a chance that their parents would be listening. I'm just kind of minding my P's and Q's. I'm thinking about this from the perspective of, oh wow, we have new listeners. We better actually really turn in a good show. And that almost always involves us turning in a even worse than normal show.
So now I regret bringing... So you didn't see the text message that John Sklaroff, business boy number 1, sent us. It was a screen cap of this comment that our new listener left us on the webpage. So you didn't see that. Now I worry that I've gotten into your head. I had another thing I could talk about with you if we get you out of your head.
No, it's actually fine because I didn't see that. I was doing the little treadmill thing and then running around getting some stuff done. So I hadn't checked in on my texts.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
But now I'm past it. The hard part for me is opening the show and the initial conversation if I'm laboring under the weight of expectations from like the Sandy C's of the world.
Sure, yeah.
But I didn't know about Sandy C when I started talking to you, and so now I'm fine with it.
Now you're in the pool. You're in the water.
I'm in the flow state.
Yeah, exactly. It's like getting in. I don't know if you're like me. I don't like cold water at all. Like let me put it this way. I have a pretty low tolerance for chilly water, and so even on vacation or something, if you're getting in a pool and the pool's cold, or the ocean especially, it takes me a long time to acclimate. I just walk. It's like, okay, the water's just covering the bottom of my feet. Okay, now my lower ankle. Now, like I just inch my way into the water. And then once I'm out there, I'm like, what was so hard about this? I'm completely acclimated, but it takes me a long time. You remind me of a guy who would just jump right in, though.
Only because I want to try to get to that, oh, this is fine part as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
But I don't like it. I will say this. I'm better going into the ocean when it's cold than going into a lake when it's cold if I'm jumping off of a dock. Because I know this is totally counterintuitive. And Sandy C, I'm sorry if we're losing you here. I'm sorry if we're sliding it back into some extremely boring esoteric territory. But if I'm standing on a dock and the plan is to jump off of the dock into the lake water, and I know the lake is going to be pretty cold, that's really hard for me because I'm fine right now. And I know it's going to be really bracing when I jump in. And that moment of change from I'm fine now to, this is going to be cold, I don't want to do it. I can walk into the ocean, and first it's just my feet. Ooh, that's a little brisk, but all right. And then I walk a little further. There's something about the slow integration that is a little less traumatic to me. And then I get to a point where it's maybe at my knees or something. Let's be honest, Andrew. When it gets to, let's just call it your midpoint as a feller.
Sure.
I'm just like, okay, well, now I got to just do this. So I do just dive in.
Yeah.
But I guess what I mean is I'm less intimidated by walking into the ocean if it's a little bit on the cold side than I am about jumping off the end of a dock into a lake.
Yeah, it's all like that for me. I mean, what helps is if it's obviously scorching outside, and then there's like you need that water pretty badly. But I'm thinking about me. I am so glad I've never seen footage of me walking into the ocean because, first of all, there's another factor, which is my glasses are off. Now, my glasses are never off. The only time my glasses are off are when I'm sleeping or when I'm like trying to read the back of a jar these days, and I just have to hold the jar up to my face and take off my progressive lenses for some reason. But so I'm at the beach. I'm dressed less than I am at almost any other stage of my life by just wearing a pair of, trunks. So I'm not feeling super secure there. I can't see anything. I see blobs, I see blurs. It kind of helps. I've told you this before because I am maybe a little bit insecure in a beach swimwear situation. It's good that I can't see anybody or anything because then it sort of feels like nobody can see me. But then I slowly, just slowly, as slow as you could possibly imagine, just inch my way into the water, probably like a zombie. I'm trying to think what I probably look like because my arms are out a little bit.
A time-lapse video of this where we watch the sun rise, move into the apotheosis, and then set, and you're about waist deep.
I'm just getting comfortable by the time the sun is setting. That's exactly right.
Did I use apotheosis right there? I just meant the high point. Apotheosis means the elevation of a person, principle, or thing to divine status.
Apotheosis.
So that's not how I meant apotheosis.
It is about rising, but you meant the pinnacle.
It is, but it sounded vaguely astronomical to me. It sounded like an astronomy term.
Sure.
Because it sounds like Greek and like something that would have to do with the planets, but that's not what that means. It just means it's the high point of something, or not the high point. It means it's kind of the most of something. I guess you could maybe try to make the argument that sort of works, but it really didn't. Can I tell you something quickly about
No, don't do
vision?
it. Take your time. Slow it down.
Can I tell you something about, I just learned this yesterday, why pirates, at least the theory as to why pirates, this is not a joke or even a dad joke, why pirates would wear patches over their eye, would wear a patch over their eye.
It wasn't about a missing eyeball or something like that?
Occasionally it was, but it was not always about a missing eyeball, because it's like, think about it. Did every pirate have a missing eyeball?
Wait a second. Can I guess the theory, or am I stealing it? Because I don't know. I don't want to steal your thunder here.
No.
Is it because, I had to wear an eye patch as a very little kid before I started wearing glasses, and it was because...
Yes, it's so they'll be bullied in grade school.
And it was...
That's why they wore them.
It was so eventually...
So someday they would
Marty
return to Valley City, Ohio.
Marty D'Amico would trap me in the back of a yellow bus on the way back from a
Think Marty
field
D'Amico's
trip.
coming to the frog jump?
I hope not. I'm scared. Oh, my God. What if Marty...
I'll protect you.
He's just putting one fist into his palm.
I've been looking to
waiting.
reestablish my masculinity, Andrew, and this might be the perfect week for it.
Okay, so I did have to wear a patch, and it's because I have literally a lazy eye, like a weak eye, right? And I wore the patch over the strong eye to make my weaker eye work harder and actually strengthen itself. And so I'm wondering, pirates had to look through those telescope thingies a lot. Were they training one of their eyes to be stronger?
You're in the neighborhood. The theory goes that sometimes they would have to run down below decks, like say there was some kind of skirmish going on or what have you. They had to go down below decks to get maybe the rifles or the something or other, the weapons. And below deck on these ships was pretty dark. It was pretty pitch black. And they'd been above deck where maybe it was bright daylight. And so the patch would be tricking one of their eyes into thinking it was dark, so that when they went below deck, that eye did not need to adjust to the light level of below deck. It could just be ready to go.
So you flip it open. You flip
the patch up, or you move the patch over to the other eye, and the eye that has been incubating in darkness is ready to go. It's like, this is normal. This is what we're used to.
Genevieve was talking about the masthead of the Washington Post. Have they just changed it to Democracy Dies yet? This is a conversation that we were having yesterday.
It's a hard turn.
Genevieve was, sorry, I was thinking about the darkness, and that got me
I was thinking about
democracy.
mastheads. That's probably also a sailing term, isn't it? Maybe?
No, you're right. I'm sorry. That does seem like a very hard turn in the conversation, but I was thinking about how things can die in darkness if you don't have a patch over your eye. It also, the reason that conversation started, by the way, was because Genevieve is now, I guess, working somewhat with the team that this is, I hope I'm okay to say this, it's a little bit of inside baseball. Genevieve is working with a team on campus that releases a daily news publication. It's just like an internal comms thing, it's for all.
Oh, it's internal to the UW. It's not external.
Yeah, it's internal, and it's like a news, they call it a newsletter or something like that, I think. But I believe it's just called UW Today. Or something like that. And I immediately was like, can we work on this title? Like, is it too early for you to come in and start like making changes? Like, let's punch this up a little bit. I just sort of feel like, and again, all respect to whoever came up with this, especially if it's somebody who's Genevieve's boss. But UW Today just lays there. It's like you just didn't, and I'm going to say it, it's like you just didn't care. You just didn't care. Can we give it a slightly zingier name? Now, Genevieve said, do you have any suggestions? And I
said UW Tomorrow.
I said yes. No, and then I was coming up with like all the double news you can double use or something like that to try to work a W, University of Washington, in there. And then that's where we came up with the
Newsversity of Washington.
The Newsversity of Washington. That's better. But the double news, double use thing, Genevieve thought was maybe more of I thought was more of a masthead than an actual name of the newspaper. But
they're still going with Democracy Dies in Darkness.
That is still up there, but it's sarcastic now, though, right? It's winking.
Well, I'm actually going to get semi-serious on this for one moment, and we're going to take it to the unfun place and say, well, first I'm going to say, with UW News Today, here's what I think about clever or interesting or groundbreaking names. And this isn't even the bummer part. I'm going to get to the bummer part in a minute. As far as trying to name things like that, you and I have both worked on a couple of different projects that were like, didn't have a name when we started them. Like, that show that I did in New York did not have a name. It ended up being the Bryant Park Project. TBTL didn't have a name before we started doing it. And for my early, for my first 20 years of doing this kind of stuff, I would be so obsessed with, and I was like, I really wanted the name of whatever the thing was to just be punchy and cool and like really tell people this is a cool thing. And I think I've actually come around to like what's really going to matter is the actual quality of the thing that is being made, which doesn't mean like, I guess I'm more afraid now of giving something a cool name that doesn't hold up. Also, this is not something that I think you or I ever need to worry about, because I think we're done founding anything ever going forward. I think this is the last startup that I'm doing. Maybe you're planning on more in the future. I saw you nodding or bobbing your head. I just think if I'm in a room and we're trying to name something and I'm 50 years old, I actually think I would be more inclined right now to go with something that's the equivalent of like a black T-shirt and jeans than, Jenko jeans and a, like some kind of a T-shirt that has a fire on it that is like, was in style in 1987, is now very back in style for my daughter's generation, but then will go out of style. I think I'm kind of coming back to the middle on this stuff.
But I mean, again, now I'm sorry that I'm really hyper-targeting this particular publication, which is unfair and also potentially dangerous for Genevieve's career opportunities. But, like, I don't think that UW Today is a black T-shirt and jeans. I don't know exactly what it is, but I would say, like, because a black T-shirt and jeans has a timeless quality to it. Maybe the UW Gazette would be that.
I
something
see.
that
Okay,
is
so
maybe there's just something about today that just seems so. It just doesn't even sound like a name to me. It sounds like a non-entity. You know what I mean? Like I think that is fair. A little bit of an insult to black T-shirts.
Gazette is a more interesting word that kind of means not the exact same thing, but that you're doing the same thing. You're being very you're being traditional, you're being relatively down the middle, but you're using a more interesting word to do it with Gazette. I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah, or even if it was the... Wait, has anybody taken the name The Washington Post?
Well, that brings me to my more unfun point. As a person who works for CBS television, and every time I have a piece that goes up, or like I reposted something, or whatever, they shared something with me on my Instagram, and then I shared it on mine. It was this little silly commentary I did this week about how I'm bad at barbecuing. There are always people in the comments of my little silly like post that says I'm bad at barbecuing and it's embarrassing for me when people are standing around watching me barbecue. People go into my comment section and say, CBS is MAGA now. I would never watch this. And obviously that's sort of personally a little bit of a bummer for me because I'm not MAGA and because nothing about my silly barbecue commentary is MAGA or was vetted by MAGA people. And what I know about the show that I work on, CBS Sunday Morning, is I work with all the same people I worked with 2 years ago. And everyone is busting their butts and doing the best stories that they can do. And the idea that people dismiss all of the work of everyone on the network because Larry Ellison's kid got a bunch of money for being a Nepo baby and bought the thing. Like, there are so many people at the Washington Post who are working so hard and doing their very best journalism, and it really sucks for them that Jeff Bezos bought the paper and fired their friends. But the idea of, like, roasting the entire paper and everyone who works there because there was a hostile takeover at the top, as a person who's experiencing that in my own way in my little job place, it kind of sucks, man.
I'm sure it does.
Yeah,
I don't, but like that doesn't change how I feel about.
No, you're allowed to feel however you feel, and I'm allowed to feel however I feel.
And I would take issue with the fact that like me making a joke about the masthead is attacking everybody who works at the Washington Post because that's not what that joke is. Well, it's saying that the Washington
Post. Well, I mean, did you guys? Well, listen, I'm not telling you how to feel about it or how to live your life, but for instance, everyone dropping their subscription to the Washington Post was. I totally understand that people don't want to support Jeff Bezos, but. Again, I think you actually brought this up and you were right about this. The real move is to drop Amazon, which you've also done. That's the harder move than dropping the Washington Post. I guess I've just been walking around with this feeling for a while of like people going like, just lumping in every single thing that happens at CBS. And I am to say that I am a small part of that place would be not even describing it accurately. I am so microscopically small at that place. And yet, and I also don't identify my identity of myself is not like CBS guy. And yet, when I hear people go, "Oh, it's just a bunch of MAGA bullshit," now I'm just like, "Oh man, it's really not. It's really like, in fact, it's a bunch of us that are just trying to put out good stories." And people have said, and again, you can hear, Andrew, that this is completely coming from a personal place for me. But like, people will be like, "Why haven't you quit?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know, because I feel like, is it a worse outcome if I quit or a better outcome?" And I genuinely don't know the answer to that. I guess if I felt like it was so inappropriate what's happened that me being a part of it was sort of endorsing it, maybe that is an argument for quitting. I kind of think of it as like, if I can get a good story on there or kind of a mildly entertaining piece or whatever onto the network, then that's kind of a W. I really don't actually know what the exactly right response is, but it's just, I've never been a very small flea on a larger animal that is so derided now by the people that I generally kind of like, am trying to impress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I understand that it would be a very personal thing for you, and I think we all have to make decisions about what we associate with and what we don't associate with, and maybe something would happen at the network that you would say, okay, this is a line too far. I don't want my name associated with that. I know that that would be the case for me at various lines as well, but everybody's going to find it. But I also just think that, like, but nobody, and I don't think you're saying this, although you're sort of implying this based on the fact that this conversation came up with just a tiny little snarky joke that I repeated that I made in the car with Genevieve about a masthead that does seem ironic now, is like, it is just, and you know this, I mean, you know more about this than I do, but like, for those of us who don't have any like particular interest or like involvement with these organizations, what we see is an incredibly unbearably scary time for democracy and what is happening to journalism underneath this administration and how it all plays together. And and you know that. I'm not trying to preach to you again. You can say this both more knowledgeably and articulately. And so therefore to be like, oh, nobody should, I don't know if you're saying nobody should do that or you're just saying it hurts your feelings when people do. But if the thing is nobody should do that, I would disagree. I think we're allowed to kind of say, make jokes about the fact that like this is a bad situation that goes beyond just a new ownership group.
Oh yeah, everyone's allowed to say whatever they want. I'm not telling anyone what they can say. I guess what I'm kind of wondering about is like, what are we rooting for here at this point? Like where we're at now. And I agree with everything you said. Like it's an extremely upsetting and chilling moment in this country where it does feel like major media organizations are bending the knee or are being just absorbed by people who are in league with, the president and other, bad actors. I agree with all of that stuff. I guess my question is, what are we now hoping happens to the Washington Post or CBS?
New ownership. Both.
New ownership. I mean, that would,
and the Cleveland Browns. I'll throw them in there, too. I don't know if you consider them a journalistic organization.
And by the way, I've said some pretty harsh things about the Cleveland Browns here, so I need to be accountable for that.
I said that. Well, obviously, sort of jokingly to make you laugh, but also, is there not a comparison there? Like, aren't you a little bit clenched because you're a big Seahawks fan, and you're like, well, who's going to come in and buy this? Is it going to make it harder to root for this thing? Now, obviously, sports is not important, and I feel very strongly about obviously the importance of the Fourth Estate or whatever you want to call it. But like, there is an analogy there.
There really is. No, you're absolutely right. But I guess I would continue the analogy to be. You're Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett, I mean, I know he's not a Cleveland Brown anymore, but all accounts are that Myles Garrett is not only one of the most talented physical athletes in a long, long time, but is also a very interesting person off the field and is really, lives a life of the inquiry of the mind. I just saw he was at he attended some workshop about how to do some kind of a thing. And this wasn't like a charity organization. This was like he wanted to learn about some, I don't know, pretty obscure topic, and he was just, Myles Garrett was just there at this weekend thing learning about it. So you're Myles Garrett and you are a Cleveland Brown and you're busting your butt every day and you have shit ownership and they give Deshaun Watson too much money, and then everyone's like, the Browns are trash. And I guess I would say maybe, and I should have done this too, maybe we separate out the Haslams, the Deshaun's, and the Myles Garretts. And in this analogy, Andrew, I'm the Myles Garrett of CBS. Okay?
I see where we're going. Okay,
I'm a generational talent at CBS Sunday morning. No, but what I mean is when we kind of say, oh, it sucks what's happening, or we are like saying this thing sucks now, and I'll just confine it to CBS because that's the thing that I have, I guess, the most experience with. When people are like, yeah, CBS just totally sucks now and it's just like a MAGA thing, I always wish people would say like the ownership of CBS sucks and they're just like a MAGA people. Not because I'm not that, and I worked there, and again, people can say whatever they want, but my experience of it, and you can tell that I'm fully shadowboxing with some of the comments that were in my Instagram page this weekend, where people are just so like, I would never watch it again. It's just a bunch of trash, and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of over there on the trash heap, moving stuff around, trying to organize my part of the trash heap into something that's maybe a little less trashy. So I guess what I would say is,
this shifts the conversation, but just out of curiosity, are people aren't writing this on your personal page when you're reposting these? These are just like on some sort of platform, like on Instagram or social media or something. CBS official account is posting.
No, it's on my Instagram feed.
Really, your personal Instagram feed. People are coming in there and on your personal Instagram feed.
Well, because what happens
these nasty
is
things.
That
does surprise me.
Not nasty things, just kind of like
but
I
would say unnecessary. Like I wouldn't personally do that. Like that.
So when I let me see, I'm trying to find this. So you know what? Maybe this is the CBS. You're right. So I'm a little.
That would be pretty surprising, because that would be like people that or listeners of this show coming in and being like,
well,
this is trash.
It has happened from people that I know. So what happens is CBS Sunday Morning puts out something, their official, I guess, Instagram, and then they're asking me to collaborate, right? So then I hit some button and it publishes it on my page.
Yeah.
And so then the comments under let me just see if I can find this. So then there will be comments under my sort of repost of it or whatever, and they will be people that I recognize, people that are in my, let me see, I'll find one. Let's see. And it's a bunch of people that I know, and they're being like, oh, this was fun or whatever. And then there'll just always be some, and it's so minor, some little turd in the punch bowl that's just kind of like, I can't watch this anymore, or this is too, whatever. It's, no one's being like over the top. They're just expressing their opinion. But me, I'm such a sensitive little baby. And also, it's just, I guess it's also oftentimes when I'm talking to people who are following this story, that is the story of like the takeover of CBS and the kind of Trumpification of things and Barry Weiss and all that stuff. It's just like it's odd to me how strongly people feel about this, and also kind of how much they assume one thing about what it feels like to be over there working versus kind of most of my experience with it, which is I'm still doing my meaningless commentaries and little TV stories about this and that. So anyway, all that is to say, they're still going with Democracy Dies in Darkness for now.
And they're still going with UW Today, which, by the way, is a great publication. I don't even know if it's something today. University of Washington Today. It's a great publication. I don't know if it's public facing. I know it's internal.
But I can't get my hands on it.
I don't know. Try Googling it. Maybe I'll end up bringing more Caprettas to that. Bring more Capretta eyes to that as well.
Is it called UW News?
No, there are two different ones. There's one that's daily and there's one that's weekly. The UW News one might be weekly. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, so they still have the daily UW, which is the daily. That's the student paper,
right? Student newspaper. That would make sense.
So they've got the daily.
Okay, that makes sense. And that might be the daily, I feel like, is your black jeans or your black T-shirt and jeans. Don't you think that the daily is student newspaper, daily? Sure, absolutely.
Yes, and I've got a soft spot for that, of course, because I did work there when I was a student. I worked there with our buddy Danny O'Neill.
It was all MAGA shit then.
It was Lyndon LaRouche had taken it over. I think the Lyndon LaRouche people were the craziest.
They were on campus. Yes.
Did you have those at Kent State?
Yes, we did. And I hadn't even
have they fallen off?
I hadn't heard that name in so long. They might have just fallen. I would guess. I mean, that's getting pretty long in the tooth, but that's right. Yeah. What was not to bite anybody's rhyme, but what was the deal?
It was about like China. I think a big thing was like I feel like the pamphlets had a lot to do with like the Great Chinese Takeover or something.
Let's see.
Was a big thing of Lyndon LaRouche. To our 5 to 8 younger listeners who don't know, Lyndon LaRouche was some guy who had a bunch of theories about, I don't know, global economics and sort of politics, and had created this whole worldview that I don't know how he'd gotten a certain number of people to stand on college campuses with like a table, like a card table, and a bunch of Lyndon LaRouche paperwork, but it was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, if I remember.
Well, I'll give you. Wikipedia gets right to it, nice and early. I really appreciate. You know how sometimes Wikipedia, it's such a long article that you're just like, well, where's the nut of this? Well, I feel like they do a good job of leading with this correctly. He has passed away now. He was an American political activist who founded the LaRouche movement and its main organization, the National Caucus of Labor Committees. Okay, sounds good. Okay. He was a prominent conspiracy theorist and perennial presidential candidate. He began in the far left of politics in the 1940s and later supported the civil rights movement. However, this is a big however, in the 1970s, he moved to the far right. His movement is sometimes described as or likened to a cult. Convicted of fraud, he served 5 years in prison from 1989 to 1994.
What is with that? We're not going to have the answer here, but what is with that drift that I feel like happens a lot, which is somebody starts out in the far left and then they get to the far right, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just such a strange progression.
I know. I have visions of one of my first boss in the newsroom, Vince Duffy, explaining to me kind of we think of the political spectrum as a line, but he was showing me how it's more of a circle or whatever, and how that can happen. And I was trying to evoke that the other day, possibly while high, while trying to explain to Genevieve what happened to John Mouse, and maybe you can explain this.
Your football song guy,
the weird musician who and you said that I got obsessed with this one song called, it might just be called Football. I don't even know how to describe John Mouse's music. It's like electronic, kind of outsidery kind of sound. And I remember 5 or more years ago, I heard one song by him. I was like, oh, this is weird, and I really like it. I was playing it a lot. I played it for you on TBTL. I believe you said Adelaide was familiar with John Mouse, so was potentially into it. So it seemed like sort of trendy hipster stuff. But then after the January 5th stuff, there was this. I'm talking about something else.
Yeah, you're talking about when they pulled down the Lyndon LaRouche table.
I'm so glad you interrupted me, because I was not going to be coherent for the next several sentences. As I was like, that's not right. What I just said is not right. Do I go back? Anyway, yeah, after that, apparently him and some other musicians and cohorts, 3 people were
Ariel Pink.
Yes, right. And they were in, they rented a hotel room in DC and were somehow, it was assumed, connected to the January 6th protests, or at least were super curious about it. But it's you don't think of them as MAGA people. So I started saying, well, is it one of those things where they're so far left that they went far right? And then I think Genevieve just changed the subject.
Well, here you go. In 2017, Mouse placed himself left of left on a political spectrum. He stated that it comes down to, if you don't have a sort of indignation when you see atrocities committed, you're not communing with the same humanity that I am. In January 2021, Mouse, along with Ariel Pink, attended the pro-Donald Trump protests that led to the storming of the U.S. Capitol. By the way, you might have been... Were they doing some stuff on January 5th? I'm not even being sarcastic. They might have been, maybe that was the buildup. I don't know. Responding to controversy regarding his presence at the event, Mouse tweeted a quote from Mit Brennender Sorg. I don't know what that is, but I can't. Oh, that's it's an encyclical from Pope Pius the 11th, distributed privately among clergy, that condemned aspects of Nazism. Does not mention National Socialism, Hitler, or Nazi Party itself, but obliquely references them. On December, and Pink later appeared, that's Ariel Pink, on an alt-right podcast, Wrong Opinion, discussing with host Josh so-and-so that he was working closely with Mouse on music and merchandise, saying John is 1,001% on Team Trump.
Oh, geez. Well, there you go. Well, then that doesn't, see, I don't understand what any of that means.
But it is, I think you're right that, there is, for some people, more of a circle. It would seem to me like one is the furthest it can be from the other, but maybe if you're, I don't know, if you're
crazy,
if you're crazy, or if you're inclined, I was going to say inclined towards very extreme opinions, you can trade out one very extreme opinion for another more easily than, it would feel like such a crazy thing for you or I to go from kind of where we're at to hard alt-right. That would feel so far from me. Maybe if you're just used to being out there on, way outside of the norm anyway, that it's just kind of trade one for the other. I don't know.
And you're just fighting all the time, going back to the internet comments that you're talking about, which, by the way, to go back to that for a second, too, is I see those the people who are just leaving. What did you say your commentary was on? It was on something innocuous.
It was on I'm bad at barbecuing.
Okay, yeah. So here's the thing about barbecuing, and people are like, "Oh, it's just I mean, some of those people might not be people. Some of those people might be bots. I'm not exactly sure how Instagram is with that stuff these days, but I just see that stuff all the time, and it's like, to a certain degree, I do understand it. People are panicking. Some people are just absolutely panicking, and they don't know what to do with their emotions, and so they feel like they need to post somewhere. Obviously, it seems absolutely ludicrous to me to post that under a specific story about barbecue. That doesn't have anything to do with that stuff. But I see that behavior all the time on Blue Sky and stuff. And in fact, what'll happen is, we were just kind of talking about this yesterday. You get a new follower, January 5th. You get a new follower on Blue Sky, and you're like, oh, who is this? What is their thing all about? And half the time now, I can't tell if it's just somebody who is like really worked up and, basically agrees with my worldview on things. But like their whole timeline is just like post after post after post of just like, anger and retweeting this article and the anger there. And I'm not saying that we don't need to have conversations about these things, but at a certain point, like, what are you achieving by doing that other than I feel like potentially working yourself up more and more? And again, I am not advocating here for sticking your head in the sand or not engaging in conversation about these things. But I also just am kind of like, but what life is that for it all to be like kind of exposed right there online maybe is part of the thing. It's kind of like maybe I'm not seeing the rest of these folks' deeper lives, and they just get online every now and then on their phone and they spout something off, and then they continue watching their kids' baseball game or whatever, and it's not big of a deal. But all we see is like somebody whose entire presence to us is nothing but futile anger and freak outedness online, and you're just like, wow, like there's got to be something more, even if not productive, less unproductive to yourself.
I do think you're right, though, that it's coming from a place, generally speaking, of fear for the world and for America. And so that's a good thing for me to remember. If somebody posts something that seems a little harsh, it's like they're saying I don't watch CBS anymore because not because they dislike me, but because they just feel like that's all they can do to try to push back on this thing that feels kind of terrifying, which is the end of like a sort of non-government controlled media. That's really what they're trying to do and say there. They're not trying to say they don't like me or they think that I'm, bad for working for CBS. I think what they're trying to say is like, this really freaks me out and I don't really know what to do other than to say I'm not going to participate in it or something. So,
well, speaking of populism, which is sort of dancing around some of the things we're talking about here, tell me about the soccer match yesterday and your feelings today, because I was not following the soccer match. I did log on a few times while I was doing yard work just to see what the score was, because I know that there was like a lot of excitement, a lot of intrigue, a lot of drama about last night's U.S. Was it
Belgium?
It was Belgium. Okay, game, and of course you were setting it up yesterday about your own conflicted emotions about it.
Well, yeah, because obviously. The big story kind of going into the match yesterday was that Donald Trump had gotten the head of FIFA to let this guy Balogun, this American player who's, I forgot to mention this to you yesterday. You probably heard this in the discourse. Do you know that this guy Balogun would not be able to play for the U.S. if not for birthright citizenship?
I had heard that. I heard that since our conversation yesterday.
It's just the funniest little ironic twist is that his parents. His mother was pregnant with him, and they were getting on an airplane to leave the U.S. to go to another country. I don't know which one exactly. And somebody at the airline was concerned that his mother was too pregnant to fly safely, and so said, we're going to have you stay here on U.S. soil for now. And she has the baby on U.S. soil, which therefore qualifies him as he is an American citizen. This, of course, the thing Trump was trying to undo at the Supreme Court level recently. But so he had been, banned from the game because of a previous foul that he had committed, which didn't seem actually to be worth him being kicked out of the next game. But anyway, Trump calls FIFA, turns the screws on them, and then they let him back into the match, which pretty much ruined everything around the narrative of the World Cup in the United States. The narrative previously had been towns like Lawrence, Kansas are embracing the team from Algeria that's practicing there. Tourists are coming from other parts of the world and having a great time in America and it's like this soft diplomacy that's really good for us. It was like a great story. And then it switched right around to 800-pound gorilla United States uses its might to cheat at soccer. That became the story all of a sudden. It just was such a bummer because it was like even if we won the game or the match, it was going to be tainted now. Even if we managed to get to the finals, it was going to be tainted. It was just like it just sucked. And I said yesterday, Andrew, that I hoped the score would be 5-0 and Balogun would be a non-factor. And I was almost exactly right, except I had the teams mixed up. It was 4-1 and Balogun was a non-factor. So I guess I'm going to give myself a half right on that.
I didn't even know it got up to 4-1. I thought it was 3-1.
Oh no, it was. I think there was a late. Was there a late goal scored? Let me see if I can find. Yeah, it was 4-1 because they scored like in garbage time. Basically, when we had almost pulled our keeper and we're just like a minute or two left of stoppage time at the end of the game, they just scored another goal that was sort of meaningless. But it was just another. It was just another cherry of humiliation placed atop the cake of embarrassment that was last night. And I mean. Everything on the internet, what I was looking at afterwards was, this is of course what happens when Donald Trump weighs in. When he went to the Knicks, the third game for the Knicks in New York City, that was the only game they lost against San Antonio. And that, again, I don't really believe in magic or stuff like this, or even really karma. But I had a feeling yesterday all day long. I was like, I don't think the U.S. is going to win this. I didn't have a strong enough feeling that I was going to bet on Belgium because, I don't know, I guess that felt like our friend John Goodwin did do that, and I did call him a Benedict Arnold in the texts between him and I, mostly because I was jealous. But like the smart money would have been on Belgium yesterday because there's just something karmically so screwed up about the president of a country intervening to bend the rules to get their player put back on the squad. And you just know if there's even the tiniest bit of justice in this universe, you knew the U.S. was going to lose. And boy, did they. And they looked so bad doing it.
And they were favored to a degree that you mentioned, even if they had sat this guy who was red carded, whose name I've already forgotten. Balogun. But you had said yesterday that you would have even been comfortable playing the team without him against Belgium.
I think, listen, I'm not a big soccer knower, but what I was seeing other people saying online was the U.S. had a decent chance of beating Belgium even without this guy Balogun. Not that they were going to be heavy favorites. I think the thought was the U.S. and Belgium were Belgium used to be a really good team, but they're kind of aging a bit. And that because it was going to be played in Seattle, so the U.S. was going to have this massive home field advantage just with the crowd. You take a younger, more kind of up-and-coming U.S. team with a huge crowd behind it, and you put them up against a Belgium team that's a little bit older, it's a slight advantage to the U.S. I think that was kind of the theory. And that even minus Balogun, maybe if you were coin tossing it, you were going 55 for the U.S., 45 for Belgium. It looked like a junior varsity team playing against a college team or something, or a professional team out there. The U.S., they couldn't. They could never, like, every time they would pass to a guy, it would be like they would pass behind the guy or in front of him. We lost almost every dribble ever, so that's also a term in soccer. You've got the ball, you're bringing it up the field. The guy on defense approaches you. Christian Pulisic, our star player, just looked like absolute dog S out there. I mean, he got hurt eventually, but before he was hurt, he just looked scared. He lost almost every dribble that he had, so every time he had the ball, somebody from Belgium just came and took it away from him. Everybody just looked pathetic out there. And it was by far and away the worst match that we played the entire tournament. And it felt like it felt magical in a way, in the worst kind of way. It felt like something in a movie where there is a curse that is put on your team. And I think that curse was called Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm. You know, I was watching the score, and I'm not trying to be a hater here because I, again, haven't been following this as a sport at all, and I have, not aggressively no opinions, just passively no real opinions about this. I don't have a rooting interest. After the news of Trump getting involved, still don't even know that I had much of an opinion about it other than like the intrigue around it when we were talking about it yesterday. But I will say, and I apologize if this hurts any feelings, because I know a lot of people are real fans. Like I'm seeing, by the way, speaking of like social media, I'm seeing all kinds of people, including yourself, not on social media, but knowing your feelings about this. But I'm seeing all kinds of people that I either know and or respect greatly, who are like really into the fate of the U.S. men's soccer team, right? Like who are big fans and didn't want the Trump thing to kind of get in the way of that. And I completely understand that. And as a sports fan, I understand that as well. As a non-soccer fan with absolutely no dug on this flight whatsoever, when I was out there raking leaves and I opened up my phone and I saw that they were losing, and I think the first I saw was 3-1 or something like that, I was like, I think I was kind of happy. I think I was kind of, I definitely.
I'm unshocked.
Yeah, because I was like, you know what this means is that like we don't get Trump to go out there tomorrow claiming this victory. You know, like just being like, yeah,
what
I
a
did that.
messed up world that we live in, where that's. I understand that logic.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, it's so.
But you know he would have. He would have been all over, you know, any microphone he could have gotten or like whatever. But I mean, unfortunately, I live in this bubble where people will like also post the angry making things both of import and non-import, I would say, you know, so that I can just get angry at things that should be on Truth Social but are also being shared, you know, in my little bubble. It's like, if it's a bubble, can we just keep it out? Like, let's enjoy the bubbleness of our bubbles, everybody. But anyway, point is like, I just didn't need to see the gloating of this just, you know, evil, oafish man. And that's kind of why I kind of transitioned into this by talking about populism, too, because I'm kind of curious, again, of all of the things that have been going on in the world since his second term started, I would say getting involved in the World Cup falls very near the bottom of important things. But when you do think about just the voting public and the people that we share a country with who put him in office twice, I do start to wonder, does this meaningless stank actually end up having some sort of meaning? When I was on KOW a while back, usually when I'm on like a roundtable on the radio side of things over there, it's usually people who vary in opinion just a little bit, or we're all like generally reasonable people. But one time I was on with two other guests, and one of the guests is the only time I've ever been on where the other guest, I'm not trying to be coy, I literally don't remember her name, but she was kind of MAGA-y. She ran for state house somewhere, didn't win, but like it was not long after Trump had taken office a second time, and she was saying things like Elon Musk is actually a Democrat. Like she was saying those like kind of crazy things that don't really seem to be like worth your time to even like to argue on her level, you know. And one of the things she said was like, you know, everybody thinks that Trump is conservative. He's not conservative. He's just a populist. And for some reason that is really stuck in my head. It's like the populism that won the day over, not necessarily the conservatism, which I don't think
I actually don't disagree with her on that.
To a degree, I think there's a reason it's stuck in my head, right? But if that's the case, that's exactly what this soccer involvement was, right? It was him playing his populism card again. Like everybody in America is rooting for the American team. And so therefore, why don't I put my fingers on the scale? Why don't I throw my weight around a little bit? Why don't I throw my FIFA Peace Prize around a little bit? Call my buddy over there and graft it up and just like get our you know, popular star player to play or whatever. And then it kind of backfires. And then all of the booing, as you mentioned, before the Knicks game, and also the fact that they lost that, like, does these two things, sporting events, so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things, could they be consequential?
I don't think so, because the New York Knicks playing in Manhattan, in New York City, I don't think is a thing that a lot of MAGA people have an investment in. And I think the World Cup is a thing that MAGA people don't have an investment in. Pablo Torre called this a Democrat trap yesterday before the game, saying that this is the first time, this is kind of what I said on TBTL, it's the first time Trump has used his terrible ways to do something that actually Democrats mostly care about. I would say the World Cup, the World Cup followers, the people very invested in it and traveling around and painting their faces or watching it on TV, it's mostly people that are center and left. We cared about it more than, I promise you, if I was driving around Longview, Washington last night at 6 p.m. and I could peer into the windows of the homes, I don't think I'm seeing the World Cup on a lot of the TVs.
Yeah, you know what I think I'm thinking of here though is, and this gets into a bigger conversation. And again, I'm not even arguing that I'm right here. It's just something that I struggle with because of some of my personal relationships in my life and everything. Is like, what is a MAGA person? And if you voted for Trump, does that make you a MAGA person? Is that how we're using that term? Because that's not how I use that term. I think of MAGA people as the very, very far left, the people who do want to like display like Trump bumper stickers and a huge flag on the back of your truck while you're rolling coal or whatever. But I don't think there's enough of them to get him in office. I think there's a lot more people in the middle who just think the left is pretty annoying and they don't like the person at work who is making everybody use they them pronouns in addressing them, and they for some reason applied that to the presidential election. I feel like there's just like a lot of people who wouldn't describe themselves as MAGA but just as people. And that's why I kind of come back to this idea of populism, not the cult members. I mean, the people who like also put him in office.
Right. That kind of middle that don't identify. You're right. It's not their whole personality, but and I think you said it right. Maybe they find it generally annoying that people want to use the pronouns they want to use, but they're not flying a giant weird Donald Trump flag above their house. That whatever that kind of group is. And how does the Donald Trump messing up the sports, maybe does that break through to them? I think if he messed up football, it would break through to those people more than messing up a basketball team that has, of its 12 members, 11 of them are black and they play in New York City. And also soccer, which is or to some degree, I still think kind of like blue state coded. But again, I'm just pulling that directly out of my backside as far as a theory of, again, I think if he ruined the Super Bowl, I think that would be way worse for him. I don't know how he would do that, but than these sports. But maybe I do like that it embarrasses him. I do like that and you've given me a little something this morning, Andrew. I hadn't thought about his victory lap he would have been doing if the U.S. men would have won. So in a way, it's like they lost, but it deprives him of that, which I guess I'll take that as a silver lining. It's just. Yeah, it's just such it's almost, well, we don't have to go back to this, but like, I kind of think that there is a little bit of a connection between what I was saying about these media outlets where it sucks that the people at the top, kind of suck because like you heard that it was 3-1 and you were like, kind of like, well, good. This is an L for Donald Trump. And also it's like, his cheating didn't work. But then where I go is like, oh man, that really sucks if I'm like a member of the U.S. Men's soccer team and I'm working super hard and this has been my life's dream. And now somehow us winning is actually going to be like in the win column for Donald Trump. Like, it's just sad that things have to get divided up this way to where we're low key rooting against the U.S. men. And I did kind of think last night, I was like, this is a bummer we're losing, but also if we would have won, it would have also been a loss because we cheated our way here. The fact that these are the calculations that we have to make is like, it's just such a bummer. It did allow for me, Andrew, to write, I thought, a pretty good Blue Sky post after the match last night. Please arrest the vandals who cut a 350-foot-long tear in the U.S. men's national team defense. I thought that was kind of
the pool, the reflecting pool. Yes.
See, because like they have these like imagined phantom vandals that cut the pool up.
Right. Well,
so maybe there's imagined phantom vandals that cut up the U.S. men's team.
It does sound like. Is there any like kind of sports, I guess, Tuesday morning quarterbacking about what did happen?
For why we lost?
Yeah, just like why they look like a different team.
I think the theory is that because they're a younger team and there's always a lot of attention on these matches, but this was, when you're playing in the earlier rounds of the World Cup, it's not elimination. You could lose the match and still advance because like maybe you scored more goals in a previous match or something. This was knockout round. This is you lose, you go home. They're playing in the United States. It's not going to be in the U.S. next time. That's another thing that's kind of a bummer is this is the big chance for the home team to kind of like have this, incredible dream run. So they're playing at home. They're in front of mostly their own fans. I know I kept going back to this last night. I don't know if they thought about this way, but it's a Monday night. They're the only sporting event on in the world pretty much. Well, that's not true. There's probably Major League Baseball happening, but
there was because I was listening to the Brewers-Cardinals game.
I love it.
The Brewers won.
Do you
come
think
from behind.
Would you say the over/under 200 people following that game versus following the World
I'll tell you
Cup?
what. I started by listening to the Dodgers Padres game, but I accidentally was listening to the Dodgers broadcast, and the announcers were literally complaining that only 5 Dodgers were going to the All-Star game. I was like, get out of, and I unironically, like without any kind of like even joking about it, they were just really mad that only 5 Dodgers were named All-Stars. I was like, get out of town with this. And so I switched things back over to where I should have started with the Midwest, and I listened to the Brewers broadcast.
And it was the Brewers. Who were they playing?
They were playing the Cardinals.
Oh, perfect. Those are the perfect. I consider that the ultimate counter-programming to the U.S. men's national team with its dear leader, Donald Trump, is Brewers-Cardinals. That's as American as it gets.
And by the way, I did feel... Like, how do I explain this? I think you'll understand it if I can find the words, which is not something I have a proven track record of today. But so I had a lot of, like I told you, I trimmed the hedges way back, and I have all this like all these like branches and leaves in the backyard that I'm sort of like kind of bagging up, and I was burning a bunch of branches yesterday. It was a really nice night, but I knew going outside that there's this huge event, not only just this huge sporting event that's happening that the country is excited about, but is happening in Seattle. And there was so much buzz about Seattle and in Seattle yesterday. And you know me, it doesn't matter kind of what the sport is. Like, I like that buzz, and I kind of want to be a part of it, or at least like adjacent to it or observing it in some way. And I had this weird feeling when I went out to do this work. It's like, it's just me, these Coors Lights, these leaves, and my Bluetooth radio, right? And I was like, I wanted to follow the game. And again, not at this point with any even rooting interest other than, I guess, rooting for Seattle and rooting for the experience and wanting to be plugged into it. But the thing is, I don't even watch soccer. There is no way if I found a radio broadcast of soccer that I was going to be interested in it, you know? But there was a moment I was like, I feel like it felt like a phantom limb to me, sort of.
Yes.
Like, certainly if it was like a football game of 2 teams I don't care about, I would have put on the football game because I can follow football on the radio. It would do me no good to listen to a radio broadcast of a sport I don't even watch.
I was twisting myself in knots yesterday trying to think of ways before the match. How can the U.S. win this and yet also somehow change the narrative? Is it, and I knew it wasn't going to happen. It was like, does the coach not start Balogun, not play Balogun at all? Does Balogun score 2 own goals, which is to say, does he accidentally kick it into our goal twice, but then we score 3 goals on them? So we win 3-2, but everyone realizes that Balogun actually was a drag on this. Like, you know, these insane scenarios where we somehow win, but we're not cheaters.
Or they have a, I don't know what the rules. Well, it's FIFA, so you know you're not allowed to have any kind of freedom of speech. But like if they unfurled some sort of a banner or something that talked about human rights or something, you know what I mean? That counter-programmed the Trump message.
Yeah, none of which happened, but now I guess the one thing is nobody cares about the fact that he cheated on our behalf because it absolutely did not work. So this will not go down as the World Cup where the U.S. got really far into it but shouldn't have. It just goes down as the World Cup where Donald Trump's attempts to cheat did not help, and where Spain won I don't know who the favorites are, probably Spain or something, won the won the whole thing. So
it would have been
I don't know.
It would have been amazing if Donald Trump had placed a phone call and accidentally Bob Balaban was in the game. That would have been amazing.
I'm saying they learn it, and then they forget it. But when do they learn it? Oh, can I let's see. Should we play the top story sound effect?
Yeah,
we need it.
Here? No, I need it.
We need it.
I need it. We need top
for some
stories.
kind of
that was
legal
all just
reasons.
Beginning of show chat.
Okay. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to Top Story.
I started the show today by playing this little drop.
You've been living in the monkey house.
Which was it's not just one of my favorite drops, but it was chosen specifically today because I learned the backstory on that drop, Andrew, which I probably should have known because I believe that I pulled that audio many, many years ago while in a phase where I was watching a lot of Project Runway, which is the Bravo show about folks doing fashion design. And that's, of course, Tim Gunn, who was, I guess he was eventually, I think that, I've lost the plot a little bit, but I think that for a while, Project Runway moved to another network or something, or somehow Tim Gunn in recent years, I think, was not invited back to be one of the judges on Project Runway, which I was shocked by because I thought of him as really the like emotional, or I don't know, because the other judges would sort of come and go, and I know Heidi Klum was there for a while, but then I think she maybe was working on like America's Got Talent or something. But anyway,
I thought he
back
was
in
the host. For whatever it's worth, I'd never seen that show, so I associate him so strongly with that show that I thought he was a host of that show, not one of several judges.
Maybe he was the host of it, or one of the hosts.
Oh, I don't know.
But his job would be to go around and kind of sit down with the designers while they were kind of in the midst of doing their projects and kind of like tell them like, this is working, this is not working, you should try more of this. And he was just great because he was kind of, in a way, he was sort of stern but also loving. And anyway, sometimes he would say to a designer, he would say this:
"You've been living in the monkey house."
And I guess I just thought, what would you think living in the monkey house means? You've been living in the monkey house.
First of all, I didn't know that this was something that he said a lot. I thought he just said it once and you grabbed the tape. And
Maybe he did. Maybe he only said it once and it jumped out at me.
And again, I have no
possible.
Just to be very clear, I'm not trying to change your opinion on any of these things.
No.
I just know nothing about that show other than he's a good-looking guy, right? He was sort of a silver fox, or was he a silver fox, or did he just happen to have like sort of silver hair, even though he was a younger guy, but like a really sharp-looking guy, right?
I think he was probably, well, I'm sure he was younger than me when he started, but I think of him as being kind of an elder statesman of fashion and design.
Yeah, and so that I know that about him. And when I hear you've been living in the monkey house, that to me makes me think that you're a little crazy. You're a little bit off. You've been in a chaotic situation, and your frame of reference for everything is a little bit off.
That is exactly what I've assumed. It's just like you're kind of in the monkey house right now. You've kind of lost your mind.
Yeah.
And you're doing something that is actually crazy and you don't realize it. Well, I randomly saw Tim Gunn on some podcast talking about fashion the other day, and he goes back to using his monkey house thing, but he explains what he's really saying about the monkey house.
It goes back to my theory about not my theory, my adage about the monkey house at the zoo. When you first enter the monkey house at the zoo, you shriek, "This place stinks." And after about 20 minutes, you think, it's not so bad. And after another 10 minutes, you think, what smell? But anyone new walking into the monkey house shrieks, "This place stinks."
So that's
interesting.
The monkey house is you don't smell the monkey shit anymore because you've been in the monkey house
It's
too long.
nose blindness, as I believe Febreze entered into the vernacular, right?
What intense topic do you think he was referring to in this interview that necessitated him explaining the monkey house nose blindness monkey shit thing?
This particular, this modern clip, I have no idea.
Of course, it was leggings, Andrew.
You know this was the case with leggings. Someone put on a pair of leggings, walked by the mirror and said, "I can't go out dressed like this." 20 minutes later, they walk by and they think, "It's not so bad."
It's just so catty.
And 10 minutes later, they walk by the mirror and they say, "I look hot."
What were you saying?
I love how catty this is. Maybe I should watch that show.
This isn't even Project Runway.
I know, but this is the most exposure I've ever had to him,
leggings.
and I love him so much.
And then the host chimes in. The clip cuts off here, but this is the host's response. The host of the podcast.
No, leggings really are a phenomenon. And I was asking one of my friends who's a stylist in the city.
It just stops there. But I love that they're just talking about the scourge of leggings. And this is what necessitates Tim Gunn breaking out his explainer on the monkey house.
Okay, speaking of tape, I have some tape that I've been quasi-obsessed with that once or twice I've thought to myself, should I play this on the show? And the answer has always been no. But I need to run this by you, and we're kind of in the Badlands right now.
Yeah.
And so if you'll allow this, and I need to play this, I'm looking for it. Okay, I have found it. Now, I have not double check to make sure that this isn't some sort of AI BS or something like that. AI BS is a new kind of irritable bowel syndrome situation. Artificial irritable bowel syndrome situation. I think this is real, but I need to give you some context for it. So I will take his name out of this because I don't know if he wants me talking about his personal business on the show. But I have a close friend, somebody that you know as well, whose parent passed away recently, and he was over here, and we were grilling. It was just me and him, and my mom had passed away recently as well, and we were just sort of, I guess the word would be kind of broing down about some stuff, kind of talking about some heavy stuff and getting emotional at times. And one of the things. Now, this is going to become a whole thing that we're going to end up trying to litigate on the show, but we got into a quasi-debate, a very good-hearted, loving debate about what legacy means, because I was telling my friend that I am not somebody who cares about legacy. Like, it doesn't matter to me that I am remembered when I am gone, that my name is remembered when I'm gone, that what am I leaving as a legacy? I just literally could not be less interested in that. But one of the things I was talking about, a phenomenon of losing a parent, is this idea that shared memories are just gone now, especially for me because I don't have kids. I don't have any siblings who have kids. So when I'm going through my mom's stuff with my sister and I'm seeing, I don't know, like I've used this example before with you, like some stool that apparently maybe my dad made that lived in our laundry room for years and years. Never thought about that stool. Saw it when I was a kid, disappeared at one point. Then I saw it again when we were cleaning out my mom's stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm having such an amazing memory of this stool. And then you can like talk about like the memories that we had in that house together. That seems so important. And it's interesting to me that when me and my sister have those conversations, they were really like memories of just 4 people, me, my 2 parents, and my sister, right? And as we pass on, those memories just evaporate. They're just gone. Yeah. And I find that interesting. There are objects that I've taken from my mom's collection that I have now that mean a lot to me, that can make me emotional to look at them or think about them. But when I pass on, like, it means nothing to anybody else. If I had kids, then maybe I'd be like, oh, this was your grandmother's or something like that. And then there would be like some significance to it, but not as much as I had or that my mom had. You know what I mean? But because I don't have kids, it's like it's literally the shared memories and the importance placed upon these memories and objects just simply disappears. Yeah. Now, as I'm explaining this to my friend, he's saying, yeah, you mean legacy. And I'm like saying, no, I don't care about legacy. I don't care that I'm remembered. It's just interesting to me that these memories disappear. He's saying, yeah, like legacy. Like you want these memories to stay. And it was just sort of a semantic thing.
Yeah, because I think of legacy the way you think of it, which is legacy to me means how you're remembered and your sort of reputation and the memories of you outside of your immediate family. Like to me, legacy, I think of that as being almost something bigger than just like your like Adelaide talking about me isn't. I don't think of that as my legacy. I would think, somebody talking about, which of course will not happen. I will not have much of a legacy either when I'm gone. But I think of it as being something that's outside your family structure. Even though a lot of the terminology, when you go to do like the obit online, it's legacy.com. I think other people might think of legacy more the way this person did, which is just like a stool within your family can be your legacy. I think of legacy as being this bigger thing that's outside of that or bigger than all that.
Yeah, and like what are you doing to preserve your legacy is one word that is associated with it. In fact, I thought like a good example was, so that was one weekend, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, and then later that week or something, I got a flyer in the mail from my university, from Kent State, that said like cement your legacy or something like that. It's like give money. And like that's what I think. Like if you were to establish a school of communications at the UW, and it was written about in the UW Today or whatever, that would be your legacy. The Burbank School of Communications, that would be sort of a legacy thing. So anyway, I get this flyer that says something about like, your legacy with Kent State. And so I take a photo of it and I send it to my buddy and he laughs about it. He's like, I'm still thinking about that conversation. As I am too, by the way. I don't think that the reason I'm thinking about it so much is because I don't think that either one of us is necessarily right or wrong, but I think it's an interesting conversation. What is legacy? So then he sends me, I told you this is about tape. He sends me this tape, which I believe to be real as I play this. If it turns out that it's somehow fake, I'd be a little bit surprised, but also listeners can double check me, I guess. But it is Mike Tyson. And there's some swears in here, and as you know, I'm not a fan of Mike Tyson at all. I was not a fan of his Maha commercial during the Super Bowl. But he is standing in front of a brick wall somewhere at some sort of event center, you would guess, and he is being interviewed by a young person. And I'm going to put the young person at maybe 15 years old, maybe
I remember
maybe
this
younger.
interview.
So you know about this.
This is real.
You know about this.
Yeah.
This is.
It's well. I don't want to. I don't want to step on your setup.
I played it 100 times because, first of all, I, again, do not align myself with Mike Tyson in any way, but this is amazing what he says here. I do agree with what he's saying, but he's talking to a child who is like, she's got a big day. She gets to interview this famous person, and she asks Mike Tyson about legacy. Now, I think I might have to hit play and then unmute.
Well, in your return to the ring for this fight, you are setting a monumental opportunity for kids my age to see the legend, Mike Tyson, in the ring for the first time. What type of legacy would you like to leave behind when it's all said and done?
Well, I don't know. I don't believe in the word legacy. I just think that's another word for ego. That's just some word everybody grabbed onto. Now it's used every 5 seconds. It means absolutely nothing to me. I'm just passing through. I'm going to die, and it's going to be over. Who cares about legacy after that? What a big ego. So I'm going to die. I want people to think that I'm this, I'm great. No, we're nothing. We're just dead. We're dust. We're absolutely nothing. Our legacy is nothing.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. That is something that I have not heard before, someone say that as an answer.
Can you really imagine somebody say, I want my legacy to be this way when you're dead? You think somebody really wants to think about you? I want people to think about me when I'm gone. Who the cares about me when I'm gone?
Well,
that's great. It's so great.
And also, the reporter's response is like perfect. Well, thank you for that. Nobody's ever put it to me. Like, so professional.
I give that
and
kid
then
credit
he
for
goes
the response.
back. He goes back for a double dip and drops an F-bomb in there. Who cares? We're dust. We're dead. Oh, my God.
Incredible.
Just
The thing with Tyson is,
incredible.
it's like he's a very complicated figure and has done a lot of bad stuff in his life, but is also just like, you never know what the guy is going to say or do the next moment, which is why he's continues to be a fascinating public figure, like just saying stuff like that.
My buddy who sent this to me, I watched it like a bunch. I played it for Genevieve, and then I was texting him. I'm just like, this is astounding. And he just wrote in quotes, "Hey, sweetie, how was your interview with Mike Tyson today?" Just astounding. I didn't know that you knew about that. Thank you for also like verifying that is a real thing, because it's so incredible that I was like, please tell me this is not some sort of weird deep fake thing.
Yeah, I saw that some time ago, and again, I thought it was just so funny because of how completely he's not reading the room. But also, I love it because there's nothing less useful than like kid journalists.
Yeah.
No offense to
no
this kid.
offense to
Like,
kid
it's not on them, but it's like there's this kind of trope of like, we're gonna, kids rock, and so we're gonna like pick 2 kid journalists, and they're gonna get to ask a question of this famous person, and then the kid's gonna, do their best kind of journalism impression, and they're gonna ask a very, very bland question, and the interview subject is gonna give a very bland answer about believing in yourself.
Yeah,
and it's just like, what are we doing here? How is this adding to anyone's life?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, that response from Mike Tyson added to my life.
Yes. But also,
and interesting, I think we'll be part of his legacy.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And kudos to the kid, by the way. Like, I do think it's a great experience for kids. You know what I mean? For the kids, like I would be. So you saw this a long time ago. This kid could probably be in their 20s now.
I don't know about
a
a long time ago. I mean, I think I saw it within the last year.
Oh, okay. So who knows? But maybe this kid will grow up to be like a great journalist. So I don't think that the experience
They've
for them
certainly
is
jumped into the deep end of the pool.
Oh, and
with that response,
so poised, like more poised than I've ever been on this show.
I don't know how. Like, yeah, you put it like an adult, sports reporter, and they're interviewing Mike Tyson. And he gives that response. I don't know what they say.
Yeah. And I also
like that
agree
kid
with
saying,
him.
that's interesting. I've never heard that response before.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be incredible if they had heard that response before?
It's like, yeah, you hear that all the time. But I'm trying to get to the next level.
If the previous 2 people they'd asked the legacy question to had said, whatever, we're done. We're dead. We're over.
We're done.
The thing that's so refreshing about that from Mike Tyson is he is a person who could be, you could understand him actually thinking about his legacy because he is so famous. And he is in a sport like boxing, where a lot of boxing is talking about the greats. It's talking about Muhammad Ali. It's talking about Joe Louis. It's talking about, it's a sport that has got one foot in the past and one foot in the present. So you could see how he might be in like, where do I rank among the all-timers?
Yeah.
What is my legacy going to be? So him saying the thing about Mike Tyson is you could also ask him this question on a different day, and he could say, my legacy is everything.
Yeah.
That's what's crazy about Mike Tyson's responses is he could decide that like all that matters is his legacy, and like all I care about is leaving a legacy that I can be proud of and that my children can be proud of. He could also give you that answer.
Yeah, you know what I'm realizing? This might be the first part of one of those Snickers hangry commercials. This actually isn't Mike Tyson. This is just like, this is this kid's dad.
Give him a Snickers
and he
bar?
hasn't had a Snickers yet. They should do that. That's a free one.
That would be genius. That would be a freebie. So.
All right. Oh,
All right.
geez. I guess that's still looping in the background. I was going to sneak up the music.
Hey, I have great news, by the way.
Yeah.
There's on Amazon, you can get a Christian Pulisic U.S. men's national team T-shirt. It's marked down to $34.99 right now.
From $1,300.
Yeah, exactly. It was surge priced at $1,000 as of 4 p.m. yesterday. It's down to a mere $35 right now. So,
can I ask you a real question about this? Because I heard on one of the sports station today, somebody said, well, I'm done with soccer, or at least like until the next World Cup. Has this taken all of the air out of it for you? Will you continue to follow the competition?
I will watch it. I'll have to pick, and I'll have to figure out the new team that I am rooting for whatever reasons that I come up with, and then I'll get invested in that team winning.
Yeah.
These matches are it's almost like, particularly when you get into the round of 16, it's like each one is almost like a mini Super Bowl or something. Like they're such a big deal, particularly in their home countries, that like it's just kind of fun to watch them. So I'll keep following this. So and then next time around, when this, I would say every 4 years, I think
That'd be my guess.
the next time around, I'm hoping, knock wood, I think we'll have a different administration. We'll probably have a different team because, again, there's a lot of turnover. I don't think we'll have the same coach. This coach that we got, his whole job was to try to get us past this round, and he didn't do it.
You mean when AOC is calling the head of FIFA?
Yes. Now the question is, would you be okay with AOC using her power to put a trans athlete back onto the team who'd been banned because it's in Bahrain or some shit. Anyway, I'll be rooting for some team down the line. I just haven't decided which team it is. So, all right, that is going to do it for today's episode of TBTL. But we're going to be right back here tomorrow. Again, the countdown continues. This is our last week before we are in Valley City, Ohio for the TBTL-a-thon 17 Jumpin' for Joy. So anyway, we'll have a Wednesday show tomorrow. Hope you can join us for it. In the meantime, have a great Tuesday. Take care of yourselves. And please remember, no mountain too tall.
And good luck to all.
Power out.